will never not be funny that it says insert subject here or whatever that says in the opening. So, Brittany Pisco, welcome
Thank
to
you.
today's unscripted broadcast. We are talking to in my mind, a giant in this industry, a wife, a mom, a dynamite salesperson, a overcomer. Uh, wouldn't say overachiever, but certainly an achiever, and somebody who's got a lot to talk about in this industry. So, welcome. And what do you say, kid?
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope I live up to the excitement of what you think of me.
Well, it's easy when you do it every day. So that's for sure. So let's start out as we often do with folks. Your life story. Excuse me. Love that. Love that post nasal drip from being sick. Um, your life story. You grew up in Carmel, right? You're a local girl.
Yeah, the house I grew up in is probably less than a mile and a half from where I'm sitting right now,
Uh huh.
which is crazy because I swore I was going to leave and never look back.
You did. You moved a mile and a half away, right? You're married to your fourth grade classmate,
I
right?
am. Hmm.
Uh-huh. You went to Carmel High School, class of we're not going to say because it's just going to make me feel old. I'm just going to feel old. You
We're
you were born around the time I graduated high school. It's just
yeah.
disgusting.
Well, it's safe to say that we're going to be ignoring our 20-year high school reunion invitation.
Yeah. Yeah. You should please do. 20
Unless
years.
they have a house to sell. I mean, I might
Yeah,
consider going.
then we're handing out cards. And we are doing that. So I know that you you went to school. You have a degree. Is Liberty University? No?
I actually did not finish my degree.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a, let's call it a PhD in the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, that's for sure. And tell me a little bit about your career before you got into real estate, because nobody majors in real estate in college, right?
No, I've yet to come across someone who does.
Me too.
So prior to real estate, I worked for Putnam County Office for Senior Resources, and I oversaw food and transportation for our the seniors that live in the county. So the friendship centers, we had 4 of them. We served about 2,000 meals a week. So it was also the feeding them in our facilities and basically like a Meals on Wheels program.
Yeah, I was going to think that was what's analogous to, right?
Yeah, it's the easiest way of explaining it. And I loved it, but I didn't love having other people raise my kids.
Yeah.
And not to mention the cost that goes along with even part-time childcare when you have little ones.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't going to be a long-term thing for me.
Yeah. So that is the one thing that we can say about people in this industry is we do get now. The truth is the kids will also get a good taste of what it's like to be in an open house or to go on a tour or go to a home inspection. They know what a septic system is before their peers do, right?
Oh, yeah. Have the Snuggly will travel. I've taken all of, well, not my oldest because he's too big, but actually, no, he's been on showings and stuff like that before. But I've strapped Thomas to my body in a Snuggly on inspections and showings and whatever it takes.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember I took Kat, who's now a freshman in college. I had to go to who knows what. We were walking through this like bombed out foreclosure way back in the crash. And Kat looks up at me and says, "Daddy, this house is broken." I'm like, "Yeah, sweetie, this is a broken house."
Yeah.
This is pretty broken. So
when I brought Grace here to see our new office, she was like, "You can't be here. There's too many bugs."
Yeah. Note to self. Note to self. So you came to the realization that we need something that has more flexibility, gives you more freedom, probably more upside, and you get your license. How long before you got your license in Connecticut? Pretty quick, right?
Less than a year. Yeah, I mean, Connecticut's a stone's throw from where I'm sitting, so it made sense to be able to service in both directions. I have my sphere goes well into Fairfield County, so it just made sense to stop giving other people business and make sure that they were working with me.
Absolutely. So you grew. So your first year in real estate, this is an interesting thing. As I recall, you were our newcomer or rookie of the year, whatever we called it.
Rookie of the
Back
year. I
then.
like to think I have that in common with Derek Jeter. Yes, don't take
Yes, you
that
do.
title from me.
It's an interesting thing about people who are winners win. You know, cream rises to the top. Winners tend to win. Um, the people who have earned rookie of the year here almost always tend to distinguish themselves, and you have done that quite adamantly as well. And you've had a first year like really nobody could ever say. But you came out of the blocks. I think the first thing I recall, you are joining the company. I do a blog post. I misspell your name.
I don't remember that, but okay.
Well, yeah. I think I screwed up Alvarez. I think I was Alvarez or something. You know. So we both fixed that, and you I think the first thing I noticed was that you're out there listing for sale by owners.
FSBOs and expireds. That was how I started. Got
Me too.
lots of hangups, lots of rejection. But I also started off pretty well with just pushing through that and still got listings.
So I recall that one of your very first ones was one of your very first listings was a for sale by owner.
Yes.
That's probably, good training in the beginning as well, starting out and everything like that. What was your approach with a for sale by owner? I mean, if you were driving along Route whatever in Putnam County, you see a for sale by owner. What was your approach?
I think I found them on forsalebywowner.com or one of those websites at first. And I just asked to preview the house, and they invited me in, and I left them information about why you should use an agent versus trying to do it on your own. I'm actually surprised that they did list with me because we didn't agree on numbers. I actually ended up not selling that property because we could not come to a realistic price point.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that's interesting in real estate is that when you see the property that you couldn't sell and then it sells for exactly what you said it would sell for, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, right. But it had to have been a confidence booster to get a listing so soon.
Yes.
Call for sale by owner, and it's funny, and this is sort of an instructional tale, I think, to anybody in this industry. One of the big mistakes, and they can keep making this if they work for my competition, but one of the big mistakes a lot of agents make is thinking that for sale by owners eat their young, that that they're unapproachable, that they hate agents and everything like that. And for a lot of people, it's just sort of a natural thing before they list. It's almost like raising the flag, all right, who wants to bring somebody? And you call them, you ask to look at the house. It's as simple as that.
It really was. And then we started building a rapport. I literally lived right down the road from them. So we were able to talk about the people that we knew together. Once they realized that we had a lot of people in common, they did their homework. They checked up on me to see if I, was a decent human being, I guess. And next thing I knew, they called me back to
with you anyway.
Exactly. So we did a legit interview. I had to actually help them clear up some work that they did without permits, because that never happens, especially to FSBOs. So I helped them. Sorry. But that's also why you need a professional, because we know to look for those things. Even as a newbie, I knew what to look for versus somebody who's doing it themselves. Because, the reason that we interject ourselves into for sale by owners is because we know we can get you more money. We know we can make sure that there's less headaches, and we know that we don't have any emotion to bring to the table. Whereas the person who built their house with their own two hands, which this client did, they just couldn't see past their emotion and realize that it was more of a business transaction and needed to change their outlook on it.
Also, absolutely 100% correct. One of the earlier things you did also, as I recall, was that you were one of the agents that invested in yourself and you took the Floyd Wickman course, I think, early on, as I recall, too.
I did. And really, that I don't even want to know what my career would look like if I didn't take that course.
Hmm.
It was because I'm a very competitive person. So if you're telling me that I'm going to win something, I'm all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, money's great and all that stuff too. Like, yeah, we all know that we're going to get paid when we sell things. But like, if I spank someone and be like, yeah, I won, I'm on it.
I have learned that you are a competitive person. And you were, if I'm not mistaken, you were the cream of the crop in that class. Did you win the top of the class award or whatever they give out, the on track award or something?
Yes, I have the on track award in my office at home. And it's something I'm very proud of. And I think they even put my picture in the real estate in depth. So I use that to, message my sphere, after I told them I was in real estate, like, hey, now I'm in real estate and I'm getting shit done.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to swear?
Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah, you can say shit. We allow it. It's unscripted here. It's a real estate term, as you know.
Yes, it is.
All right. So, and it was a hell of a first year. And if I'm not mistaken, your second year, you were selected as Person of the Year. And you did not miss a beat despite, some pretty significant adversity. And by this time, you have your Connecticut license.
Yes.
Baby's on the way.
It was exactly the 1 year anniversary of my career in real estate, joining J. Phillip, like legit.
Yeah.
That, tragedy struck, I guess you could call it. And then, yes, right shortly after that, it was baby number 3. Get ready, because here she comes.
Here she comes. That's right. And how old is she now?
5, going on 25.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable how fast time goes. It's just crazy. It is nuts.
It's nuts. And, if you were to told me when I first got my license that this would be what my life looked like, a couple of years down the road, I would be like, yeah, right. No way.
Did you find anything out that surprised you when you got into real estate? Like, some things are easier than you thought. Some things are harder than you thought.
Yes.
All of that, right?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I mean, coming from working where someone else set my schedule, being disciplined to make my own schedule and stick to it was probably the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with actual real estate, but becoming an independent contractor, entrepreneur, however you want to call it, being responsible for yourself and putting your boundaries out there and sticking to them was hard. It was really hard.
Absolutely. So I remember, because we do a fair amount of WFH here, right? We do a fair amount of work from home here. Okay. And prior to us even leasing office space, I think I was open for about 2 years before we actually signed a lease. So my first 2 years I was out of the house. And I remember somebody saying to me, you work out of the house? I mean, you must have a lot of discipline. And I remember thinking, no, I really am not that disciplined. I have a lot of bills. Right? There's nothing gets you off your rear end. Like, invoices, right?
Yeah, and they have to get paid or they come knocking.
So let's talk about boundaries. You bring them up. You learned boundaries early. We are in a business that can suck you dry, right?
Oh, yeah.
You train your clients. And when I say you, I mean you, the agents out there, you, the folks that are walking around with pocket cards. We train the public on how to interact with us. And if we start answering calls at 11 o'clock at night or, that sort of thing, people start to blur the lines between the fact that we are a human being and not just, their agent.
Right.
Was that a tough lesson to learn?
Just because your name and phone number is on a rider outside of someone's house doesn't mean you should call it at 2 a.m. Don't know who needs to know that.
Right. Exactly. So was there an event or was there just sort of like you see where this is going and I better put the brakes to this? So what taught you, do you think, to start putting together boundaries so that you can keep your sanity?
Well, my husband would tell you that I didn't have any before we started dating, but
Yeah.
I think I did to an extent, because it would really, quite frankly, it would piss me off when people would, call or text at 11 o'clock at night. They're like, well, why don't you turn your phone off? Well, I get that. And we all should turn our phone off. But when you have children and they're not with you all the time, as my oldest son was back and forth with his father, no, I don't turn my phone off. And I don't need you telling me that I need to turn my phone off. You
Yeah.
should call between people hours, which
Yeah.
is 9 to 9,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember being in a networking event years and years ago, and they wanted to collect our cell phones.
Oh, no, you're not touching my phone.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm like, dude, I have a special needs kid. There's no way you're getting my phone.
Yeah, no, not
my
happening.
phone is with me 24/7. And yeah, your phone is not just, as we know these days, something where we can
Mhm.
just sit around waiting for clients to call. That's not why I would turn it off. I might be doing an Instacart. I might be playing a game to keep my sanity. I might
I
be
might
doing
be
all kinds
doing
of things.
anything that is just none of your business.
Yeah, like
And you
it's my
shouldn't
fault.
call me. No,
It's-
I tell people that, if it's really super important and super specific, like if we're talking about open permits or things like that I need specific details to, that's not a text, that's an email.
yeah,
Because I need to be able to find it. I need to be able to search. And if you're sending me everything in a text, it's not happening there. That's not the right way to communicate important information. Text is quick
yeah,
quick and
exactly.
impersonal. And in fact, even what I do for my emails, I've learned now. So if I am replying to people at 11 o'clock at night or at 3 in the morning, and sorry if you're one of these people who gets my emails, but I set that for scheduling for, business hours in the morning so that you don't think that it's okay to call me at 3 a.m. when I email you.
Precisely.
Because I
So
might be up with a baby, and that might be why I'm responding to
yeah,
you. I'm up.
exactly. So we have families. We're doing things. We have to, go to the bathroom, warm glass of milk, put the
Yeah.
kid down, whatever it is. So at some point, you decided this was probably a worthwhile thing to recruit Austin into, your brother. So tell me about that. And I'll have some follow-up questions probably, but tell me about, when did the light bulb go off that, you know what? I'm going to get my kid brother into this too.
Should I leave out the part where you told me I was savage for recruiting my kid brother?
No, you can include any part you wish. You can even say shit again if you want.
I think it was really not me so much recruiting him, other than him saying, "You look like you're having fun and you're making good money. How do I want in? How do I do this?"
Best
And
way
he
to
wasn't
recruit.
wrong. I was having fun. I still am having fun, and I still am making good money doing what I do. And it doesn't feel like work some days, because when you get to help people on the level that we do, it's so selfishly rewarding that it's just such a feel good thing when you see people in their Instagram feeds posting their pictures of Christmas morning, and that they were envisioning that when you were helping them find their dream home. So I think I get a little extra weepy on holidays when I see that stuff, because that's, especially the holidays, like home for the holidays. What is better than that? Nothing, in my opinion.
Nothing.
So I think, sorry, I'm getting off the tangent of why recruiting my brother, but we are having a good time, and we learn a lot, and we learn a lot about ourselves too, which might not be so much fun sometimes.
Okay, so I'm going to draw a parallel line. The guy who was my coach for that back at school
Mhm.
was the first time that I ever saw the man in the arena, which you have behind you.
I do.
That was up in the Bachelor's Barge Club boathouse where Villanova crew rode out of on the Schuylkill River. And don't ask me to spell Schuylkill because it's impossible. Tully Vaughn. And Tully had this phrase that he would say. He would say that crew does not build character. He said it reveals character. And I would follow up and say, and I say this to my son about wrestling, I certainly say it to people who are in this industry, Real estate does not build character. Real estate reveals character. You know what you're made of
Mm-hmm.
if you can eat what you kill. If you can take someone who is a skeptic, who is nervous, who is entrusting you with not just the largest transaction of their lives, but helping you be their guide to where they're going to live for the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years. That is a big deal. And it does take a high level of character to know what you're made of, to guide people through that and look them in the eye and give them advice that you are going to that you're going to stand by. And that is the correct way of spelling school kill. Yeah. Yeah.
That's not what I would have pronounced it as. So good to know.
I mispronounced it the first probably year I was at school. This is why Philly has an inferiority complex, because Boston has the Charles River, right? and and we have the Hudson River, and these guys have the Schuylkill River, and it's just like it sounds like you're clearing your throat when you say the river. It's just
God bless
sorry,
you.
yeah, Gesundheit, exactly. And no regrets bringing him in, right? So Austin comes aboard and runs in the family, doesn't it?
It's in a sense, yes. Austin and I are different people in many, many ways, but we complement each other. And, we've got the whole good cop, bad cop routine down pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
He's always the good cop because he's like the nicest person in the world. My husband said to me the other, when we were, I think right before we were married, he was like, if you don't like Austin, that's your problem. He's and he's right. He's a very likable guy. So, and sometimes I'm more of a, I'm not Willy Wonka. I don't sugarcoat shit type of person. So he kind of helps me balance things out when I get a little too,
blunt,
a little too rough, a little bit blunt. There you go.
Okay. So here's a question. This just popped into my head because this is, after all, unscripted. So this industry lends itself to having a lot of the fairer sex in it, but it is also an industry that requires candid, blunt communication. And I've gotten calls from people complaining about my agents. And really, you know what it was? It was just a guy that couldn't have a woman tell him what time it was. Tell me about that. You get any pushback on this? You get any, how come you're not softer? How come you're not, why are you so harsh? Anything like that? Any pushback on that?
No. And if anyone has ever thought that, they haven't been brave enough to say it to me.
Yeah. Okay. It's good to know. Because you should be unapologetically yourself in this business. And, damn the torpedoes, really, because there's too much at stake.
Real estate. Real estate. You have to be real in this. Otherwise, you don't get where you need to go. Client, broker, anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had a nickel for every time someone would be like, oh, well, what do you think is going to happen in this transaction? I don't know. Every transaction's like a snowflake. There's no two that have ever been the same, and I've closed plenty.
Yeah.
I've never had an identical transaction ever come up.
No, they're all different, and it just requires the same principles. And like you said, it is the epitome of substance. It starts with real. That's not a coincidence.
You want fake and phony? Don't call me.
Yeah, wrong place, wrong address. Okay. All right. So one thing I've noticed, and that is that you do not back down from a challenge. So
much to many people's chagrin.
Tell me about that. And we don't, there could be obscure stuff. I know many of your challenges, but anything that I wouldn't have seen, anything that maybe didn't meet my eye, that was a challenge. Like you said, the discipline of being an independent contractor and everything like that. Maybe the kids part of it.
Well, I'm a mom first.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a mom first, and as I also feel that if there's something that doesn't sit well with you, who cares what somebody else thinks? If you're advocating for someone, and in real estate, we are advocates for our clients. And we are advocates for our community as well, because what makes up our communities, in my opinion, is schools. People move to certain areas based on schools. Not that we can comment on them, we can provide them with that information. But if you feel passionately about, your stance on it, there are forums for you to clearly express that. And I'm not talking about being a keyboard warrior. I'm talking about getting to a board meeting and voicing your concerns and your opinions. And I have been known to lead a few petitions and get them recognized and make change happen.
You are active with your school board, aren't you?
Yeah, if you have something to say it or don't do anything at all.
Okay.
You can't be a Monday morning quarterback and be like, I wish we did this. No, you get in there and do something about it. If it means that much to you, do something, or don't do anything. And by don't do anything, I mean,
yeah, just be quiet.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that being vocal, being involved has actually made connections for you that resulted in business.
And with more like-minded people, which is a little bit easier to work with when you are not, opposing forces.
Yeah, absolutely. See, everybody's got their tribe. One of the first things that I said to, I think it was Elena, I said that out of 100 people, there's going to be extremes. There's going to be 10 people on each end. Out of 100 people, there's going to be 10 people that wouldn't work for you if God came out of the sky and said you need to work with this agent. And there's going to be 10 people that are going to work with you, like, no matter what, because you're their agent. They just feel comfortable with you. And then there's going to be another middle standard deviation in there. You want to get as much of that chunk in the middle, but there's always going to be a certain percentage of people. They're just not your tribe. And I was talking with an agent, a broker, as a matter of fact, about Kenyatta. I got to get her on here, who is going to be doing a presentation at Triple Play next year. I said, what's it going to be about? And she said, tribal networking. That's what she called it.
I like that.
I love that phrase. I love that phrase because, it really is about your tribe. There's agents here that are making bank working in their synagogue or working in their country club or working in their, whatever thing that they're into that I would never walk into. Right.
Right. I like that because I live and die by the, not just this, but your vibe attracts your tribe. And I know with what I put out there, I know I turn people off, and that's okay. I'm not for everybody. And if you're trying to be for everybody, you're doing yourself a disservice and your clients.
Yeah, you can't be a chameleon.
No matter, right. No, I'm not here for people to like me. If you do, that's great. And, but that's not what this is about. That I like that. When you talk to her next, I'd like to be part of that conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. You two would like each other. She's sharp lady, very sharp lady. All right. So kind of not a lightning round question, but somebody's thinking about getting into the real estate business. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give somebody who's thinking about it? If you hit rewind 5.5 years ago, what advice would you give someone who's considering getting into the real estate business? And by the way, I'm saying this in an environment where more people are getting out than getting in at this point.
Which will lead us to a different topic in a few moments, I'm sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Remain teachable. And you don't know what you don't know. And there are certain things that I didn't know coming into this that now I could do with my eyes closed. But there are certain things that when I first started, I was like, oh, I'm never doing this, never doing that. I can't remember what they are at the top of my head at the moment. But you have to be flexible in your methods, but firm in your goals. Making sure you have a great support system is definitely necessary because, I don't mean financially, although that is very helpful, but sometimes this can be really hard, and it can really take a toll on you when things don't go well, when you've given it your all. But really, remaining teachable is probably the most consistent advice I would ever give, because I came into the industry, I think I was just 30, and
Go on.
and I would hear from other agents, "Oh, I don't know how to work my computer," and I'm like, "You what? You don't know? You don't have Facebook?" I mean, the kids these days would make fun of me for having Facebook, but whatever, they don't have to pay my bills. But really remaining teachable and staying relevant in real estate is the only way you're going to have that 30, I've been doing this for 30 years monologue.
Yeah. Yeah. So remaining teachable is a huge thing in my experience. And the
It's always
idea,
changing. Always.
the sand shift, which makes me ask, where do you see the market going? Right? You've been here 5 years, which means you've seen the market go up and up and up and up and up and up, even through COVID and everything like that. Now, this is kind of like your first sort of like pause or slow down and that sort of thing.
I think I'm going on my 8th year, but I think, well, first of all, I think everyone needs to turn off the national news.
Yep.
And not just for real estate reasons. We're all going crazy. Turn off Fox, turn off CNN, turn off MSNBC. And if you're listening to national reports about the housing market, you have no idea what the hell they're saying because it's not accurate. Real estate is a hyper local beast. If you want to throw it in with, what's going on in the Hudson Valley to Silicon Valley, like, it's not even the same planet.
Yeah.
So you can't put that all into one box and say the housing market is slowing. No, the housing market has slowed down from what we experienced, because what we experienced was absolute chaos. And it's now correcting itself, but in the same breath, and we still don't have any inventory. So, while you're saying the market is slowing down, we're still experiencing bidding wars. We're still experiencing escalation clauses. We're still experiencing appraisal being waived and inspection contingencies, not the actual inspection, being waived.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think that the national reports and forecasts or whatever the hell you're listening to out there is anything worth your time listening to.
So, when they talk about Case-Shiller, national things and everything like that, what you said boils down to all real estate is local. I'll tell you an interesting thing. This predates before you got into real estate. But in 2007, 8, and 9, when there was blood in the streets, the real estate market in Manhattan was red hot. It was nuts. It was a red hot market. Then when things started to recover elsewhere, Manhattan had a slowdown. And it would have been such a disservice to someone in Manhattan to give them the same advice that you'd give someone 15 miles, for that matter, away, right? Or 5 miles away. Real estate is local. We are still, at least locally, a destination. People relocate here from around the country. We are not hung up on one mill or one local employer. Like, for example, when I was upstate in Rochester, they lived and died by how Kodak was doing. Different animal now, right? We don't have that. Poughkeepsie, like the market in Southern Dutchess, was always.
There are people that are like, "What's Kodak?"
Yeah. Very hung up on IBM, for example. We don't have that. Westchester, Putnam, Rockland County, the Fairfield County, the Hudson Valley. We are a destination. We're different from, Oklahoma, etc. So you're 100% correct. It is local, and I love for that reason your market reports. When you send out a market report, you are focusing on the community. You're focusing on your backyard, and instead of being solicity and salesy, you are bringing some value. And I would imagine that your referrals, if they aren't already, are going to start to snowball because you're going to become top of mind for more and more people.
I do my best in that. But yes, I like to cover Westchester, Putnam, Dutchess, and Fairfield counties in my reports because, well, they all butt up right against each other. I mean, Fairfield, Dutchess, Putnam, Westchester, it's all right there. That is the Hudson Valley and into the Housatonic Valley as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we're in that area where it's still reasonable to commute to the city for those that are not the W from Hers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, WFH.
I
Completely
get it.
botched that. Unscripted, right?
Yeah.
As far as we're also a Purple Heart County here in Putnam County, which is a new recognition. We're also called where the country begins, as far as our tourism department goes. And most people who work in the city are, law enforcement or emergency personnel, FDNY, NYPD, this is the furthest that they're allowed to go north for their residents. So we do attract a lot of that, which is also why we're the Purple Heart County, because we have a lot of military, because military and law enforcement usually go hand in hand.
Now I know what the Purple Heart is, but what does it mean to be a Purple Heart County?
I don't exactly remember when it happened, but our previous county executive, Mary Ellen Odell, was very, very big in doing advocacy for our veterans because
Gotcha.
I prior to working in Putnam County Office for Aging, I also worked in the state Senate where I did help a lot of veterans. And it's really sad to see how many have slipped through the cracks in getting what they deserve after they've given so much to our country. So I think that was like her turnaround to, we hear you, we see you, we're going to take care of you. And we were the first county in New York State to be declared that.
Love it.
Me too.
Yeah, we don't.
And my brother's a veteran, so I do really think that is special.
I know that. I'm the son of a veteran. Lived with undiagnosed PTSD for decades. Yeah, I love Eisenhower's quote. He hated war the way only a soldier could hate war.
Yep.
So, yeah, love that. And that's an important backdrop. Honor member military personnel killed or wounded with hostile forces, 8/23/2020. Thank you, Tim. This is the value of having a good producer. He's on
I
it.
feel like I'm on Rogan.
I think I have too much hair for that. All right.
And you haven't thrown any F-bombs out there yet, so you're slacking.
Not yet, but I reserve the right. I reserve the right. So you see the market is shifting to I would say sort of like a normal, kind of a normal thing. We're in a low inventory thing. You have you're bestowed with a magic wand. You
finally
lamp. The genie comes out of the bottle. I'm going to give you one wish to fix the real estate industry. You have a magic wand. What would you do to wave your scepter and fix the real estate industry or improve the real estate industry if you had a chance to, like right now? What would you change?
It would have nothing to do with market conditions. It would be the way that we do real estate in the Hudson Valley. As you have said, I am also licensed in Connecticut, where if you have an accepted offer, you are now under contract because you put down your 1% earnest money deposit.
Yep.
In New York, or at least in our area, it's a handshake and a prayer until you get to a signed contract, which could take up to 3 weeks. So therefore, neither the buyer nor the seller is protected. But I understand that this is because of attorneys and only their interests being in mind and not the general public. So if anyone wants to give me that scepter, magic wand, crystal ball, I'll happily take it, because that's the first thing that needs to be fixed in this area, in our industry.
I think there'd be a lot of people that agree with you. And I even think there are some attorneys that would agree with you. So
it is not fair to our consumer, which, by the way, is all of us, because we all need a place to live. As you've said before, everyone needs a roof.
Yeah. Yeah, we all live indoors. It's not a fad.
Yeah.
It's got legs. So when I first got into the industry a long time ago, it was upstate. And there was a Monroe County Bar Association written and approved contract that the brokers would prepare. And before any armchair attorneys out there say, hey, that's practicing law without a license. No, it's not, because it had a contingency for attorney approval
Mhm.
baked into the verbiage. And you had 72 hours once the
Mhm.
contract was signed to get attorney approval on your contract and to do your inspection. And once those two things were initiated, then within 48 hours, 72 hours, you're now under contract. We often don't even have a memo out within 48 hours.
We don't even have a deadline for when inspections should be completed by.
No, no.
It's really a disservice to all parties involved. But for some reason, and if I had the ability to clone myself, I'd fix this myself.
Yeah.
But I don't have that power, and I don't have a whole bunch of money to throw at it to fix it. But it really does need to change, because it's 2023. Why are we doing the largest transaction of your life without a net?
Contract. Yeah. Without a contract. It's I agree. It's a disservice to the consumer. And this is kind of like the red meat of the stuff we talk about here, because this is not like a self-promotional sort of thing. This is
No,
it's an uncomfortable kind of a subject. When you are a
it is.
buyer, right, and you've spent money on an inspection, you've got your family involved, and then a higher bid comes in, and there's nothing that bound the seller to stick with you. It's rough, and we saw deals die under the format that I talked about, like you see in Connecticut, like you see upstate, but far less often.
Or conversely, on the buyer side, not just on the buyer side, but on the seller side, you think you have an offer, you think it's going forward, you're buying a house out of state, but because you're in New York, you got nothing to show that you're buying a house out of state. Or the multiple offers that you got, the one you picked, they had multiple offers on 3 other properties too, and they just wanted to see what won. They won your house, but you were number 4 out of their 5 that they submitted offers on. So they're actually not going with you, even though they won the bid.
Yeah.
So there's so many different reasons why this sucks. And no offense, I don't mean any offense to attorneys. They are absolutely critical in us getting our jobs done. But there has to be a better way where it's done with efficiency and people not hating each other, because it makes it a very contentious process at times.
Yeah, high stress. And, it's sort of an interesting litmus test, because if you do have that other domino falling in another state, you do have a seller here, but who's buying in. Didn't you have one recently? I don't know, West Virginia or something like that. And when you try and explain to a Virginia or an Ohio or a Florida agent our process, they're just like, how do you do that?
Right. How do you sleep at night? How do you know that you're even getting paid?
Yeah. How do you know when you're going to wait another week and you still may not be in contract? What do I tell my client here?
Right. I've even had someone seller in West Virginia call me and scream at me.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't tell them when they were closing. But I don't know what to tell you. I just don't know what to tell you. I wish I could give you an answer.
Yeah.
But I'm not the person that holds that power, unfortunately. But in Connecticut, I am. I'll tell you exactly when we're going to close, because I wrote the contract that was approved by the attorney within 48 hours. And we had our inspections done within 5 days max.
Yep, exactly. And you've got, I would say, more and more Connecticut transactions that are happening that way. Right.
Yes.
So you've got experience with that. The deals are happening. You sleep at night. You know that it's going to
sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of. Exactly. And the other thing about Connecticut that's sort of an interesting thing is that they don't have this crazy, enormous 30-day on or about sort of grace period that everybody exploits. They're way tighter. I think they're at 10 days or something like that, aren't they?
In my experience, whatever I've put in the contract, I think
Or when it
outside of
closes.
one time,
Yeah.
because there was a New York transaction involved, go figure.
Yeah.
We closed on the date that I wrote in the contract, or the other agent wrote in the contract.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
I've had agents come to me going, I'm confused. I don't know when to call the closing date. I'm like, no, don't be confused. Unlearn New York. Call the shots. Call the shots
Lobotomize
because you
yourself
can.
a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Unlearn.
You do have that power. Possess it.
Yes. Yeah. Wake up to that. Something else I want to talk about, and that is your fiscal IQ. Okay. So, stepping into management, which you've done in the past few months, elegantly, I might add.
Oh, thank you.
You came to me and you offered to give me your input on profit and loss, budgetary matters, and everything like that. And your dispassionate approach to these things, which is really not I'm good at a lot of things. That's just not one thing I'm not good at. But your ability to parse that down to the manageable has impressed me.
Oh, well, thank
And
you.
curious, were you good at math? Was it something that
No.
you were more lent to, or you just learned to focus that way, just living life?
Well, I've had to manage a lot on my own financially.
Yeah.
And I haven't always done a great job with it myself. So I've learned, again, the PhD in the School of Hard Knocks. There you go. But sometimes making money isn't exactly in just what's coming in; it's what's being cut.
Yep.
A penny saved is a penny earned. It's just an old saying, and
Yep.
it's a lot easier for me to look at someone else's books and say that than it is to do my own.
It is for anybody, I would imagine. But
Right.
the fact remains that you do get that. You do get both sides of the ledger. You understand it. And to your point, good judgment comes from experience, right? Experience comes from bad judgment. So you've learned.
I've never had any bad judgment, says the two of us who, oh wait, no, only I've been married 3 times. You're catching up.
I've been engaged 3 times.
Oh, there we go. That's what we have in common.
Yeah.
I knew it was one of those things.
Thrice. Yeah. Thrice. Yeah.
But also, I mean, I only told you about what I did prior to what I was doing before real estate, but I did work for a construction company and I managed their books and helped, find ways of robbing Peter to pay Paul at times because that's just what
it's a hard business.
That's running a business.
Yeah.
You have your highs and your lows, and you gotta roll with it and figure out how to keep the doors open. And sometimes it's creative accounting. Not creative accounting, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
And just finagling how to keep it with a pulse at times until the rainy days are over.
Finagling. I love it.
Don't tell my accountant I said that.
It's not an accounting term, but I totally get it. Managing people, right? You are in your first year of real estate management. Yeah, I get it. It's herding cats. Talk to me about managing independent contractor salespeople. Talk to me about that.
There are times where it's like bashing your head against a wall because we are free spirits. That's why we're here.
Yes.
But also harnessing that to our advantage. My whole method working from home with 2 kids at once, 3 kids at once, 4 kids now, is working smarter, not harder.
Yep.
And making sure that what you are working on is going to bring you what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And that you're not wasting your time on BS. So sometimes it's just helping agents refocus themselves. And, my husband's a therapist and I say all the time, I don't know who does more therapy, you or me. But when I first started saying that, it was in regards to clients. Now it's in regards to agents as well. So, sometimes just listening to people and going back to being real. I have literally dug myself out of the ashes.
You have.
From being widowed young, raising 3 kids alone, from cancer diagnosis at 32. Go ahead, tell me what your hardship is. Tell me what you're hung up on, and I'm going to tell you that I'm not trying to minimize your stuff, but sometimes we need to remove ourselves from our woe is me moments and be like, okay, it's not that bad. I'm not dying. And I can do this. I can get out of my comfort zone and make a beautiful life for myself if I just do X, Y, Z and not A through Z.
Yeah.
Because sometimes A up to Y doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. 2 things I observe about your leadership style. Okay. You do lead by example.
I do, because I do believe that, or I try to, because I believe that if you're going to ask someone to do something, you better damn well be doing it yourself, which is also why the man in the arena. And if I'm going to be giving agents advice, it's because I am in the trenches doing the same crap that they're doing, getting the same bullshit slung my way that they are.
Yep. Yeah. You get it. You get it. The other thing, and this is something that is probably a little bit more textbooky, but I like it, and it's something that can't be emphasized enough, is you're a big proponent of planning your work. You're a big proponent of planning, right? So talk to me about that, because, you know, Mike Tyson said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. You and I both know a little bit about about the punch in the face part.
Getting punched in the face, yeah, it's happened a few times. Thankfully not.
Plan.
You do.
Right?
You do. And sometimes in part of having the plan is having multiple plans.
Contingency plans.
Right. You know,
my D&I group loves to say, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan.
Yeah. And my plan is every October, November, I sit down with my own business plan. I look at what I've done in that year, what I've got in the pipeline, and say, all right, well, that was a good year, but I want more.
Yeah.
And how do I have to have more than what I did? And is it increasing, you know, my seller appointments, my buyer appointments, getting out and doing more networking? How am I increasing what my bottom line is for me and my family and our future?
Yep. Love it. And you happen to like Rhode Island like I do.
Love it.
Was it, where were you married? Narragansett? No.
On the Narragansett Bay in Newport.
Newport, right. I knew it
yes. We got married in Newport in August. Newport was kind of like our, oh crap, COVID's here. Where do we go for a getaway? That's fun, close, and has great food, because we are self-proclaimed foodies. And Newport was easily it. And we had a great time there. And it's so beautiful. If I could go back in time, I would live in the Gilded Age in Newport, Rhode Island. And I would have the biggest hats and the most extravagant dresses.
I love it.
A girl can dream.
When we brought Joe up, because he goes to Roger Williams, we got a chance to go to some of the, I think we went to the Vanderbilt's cottage, their summer cottage.
Yeah,
now,
their cottage.
It's hilarious. You know, we're talking about something that's like 25,000 square feet. It's the size of a apartment building, right? Right on the water. And they don't have beaches there. You know, it's really sort of a rocky coast. But it is breathtaking. And
beyond.
Yeah, awesome experience. And,
we stayed at the Castle Hill Inn for our wedding night, and it was like nothing is ever going to compare to that again. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Love it. Awesome stuff. Well, I told you this would go by fast.
It did.
It went by pretty fast. So what's the best way for people to reach you? If somebody wants to buy or sell in Fairfield, Putnam, or the surrounding counties, how does one reach the BP team or the BA team? Beg your pardon, Brittany and Austin team.
Yes.
It's self-pimpage time.
Well, it's funny you say this because I actually was teaching my children my phone number because who teaches their phone numbers anymore?
Yeah.
So I was teaching them with one of my old riders. And then I was like, you know what? If you ever forget, BrittanyPisco.com. Just tell whoever, if you're lost, tell whoever, look up BrittanyPisco.com. You'll find me.
Beautiful. Love it. Love it.
Thanks for the
All
plug.
right. Well, look, let me tell you something. You're one of my favorite people. I admire you for many reasons. You've overcome a lot. You walk your talk. I knew this would fly by because you're the goods.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual.
Thanks. And we're going to do it again real soon. And yeah, the tribal networking, I'll connect you with Kenyatta. I think the two of you would get along great. And, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. And you're going to like what things look like when the dust settles.
I don't know that the dust knows how to settle around me. But
Well, I'll leave you with this, Brittany. I'll leave you with this, and then Tim, you can take it away. For the shit that I have had, one of the things that I knew would make me okay was that you're on the team.
Oh, thank you.
You were most welcome, and I thank you. All right, Timothy,
thank you.
Take it away.